Hello, hello! Welcome to the Moana Adams podcast. I'm your host, Moana, a 15-year-old with a ton to say about mental health, wellness, self-love, and a whole lot more. So let's get into it. Hello, hello! Welcome to episode 27, where today we're talking about social media's impact, specifically on teens and our daily life. And I am talking about this with Maddie. She's here with me today.
Hello, hello.
And Maddie's going to give us a rundown of who she is, what she does, and all of the things. And then we'll get into our segments.
Yeah, as Moana said, my name is Maddie. I host the Flowering Compass, which is a podcast dedicated to sharing the stories and journeys of teenagers from all walks of life. I'm currently doing a lot in the realm of... I had a place where I was going with this, but I blanked. I'm doing a lot with interviewing teens on mental health and on different lifestyles. That's where I was going with this. On different lifestyles and different religions have been really fascinating me recently. So I'm doing a lot of upcoming stuff about that. And that's really it. I interview teens. That's yeah.
Yeah, I love listening to your stuff. I went on her podcast. What was it? You just posted that 2 weeks ago now?
Yeah, I posted it about 2 weeks ago. Yeah. I have a lot of pre-recorded episodes. So it's by the time they actually get posted, it's a month later.
Yeah, you're way ahead. This will probably go out in 2 weeks. You're so far ahead compared to me. I'm trying to get them pumped out way back. And I put off editing till the day before.
I do that as well. Yeah.
So all of Maddie's information will be in the episode notes. You can go and follow and listen to all of her stuff because she's awesome. And yeah, let's do our segments because we have a lot to cover today.
Yes.
So my currently loving is beach life. I spent the last 4-ish days in Hilton Head, which was my first time being there. A lot of people on the East Coast go there and those East Coast islands often, but I'd never been. And it was really fun, and I did not want to leave. But we came home, and it was just so much fun. It was gorgeous, and I just love the ocean so much. My name has always been really important to me, and that's kind of when I was younger, I felt really connected to the ocean, and I hadn't been in the ocean in 2 years. Because while we were traveling, we didn't go to the beach, but twice, I think, and it was cold. So I am loving beach life and I want it to come back, and now I'm very excited for summer. Okay, nice. What is your currently loving?
I honestly have to say, and this is kind of a weird one, we just talked about it, but editing my podcast. I've had a lot of good interviews recently, and I've just have really enjoyed editing my podcast. It's something that's really, really simple. I go to a local coffee shop of mine a lot, and I just I'll chill there and I'll just edit for 2 hours on end. And I've just been really enjoying it recently. It's just one of those little things in my life that's it's just enjoyable.
That's good for you. I hate editing so much. I cannot stand it. I never want to sit down and do it. And I enjoy doing it once I actually start doing it. But the actual task itself, is just always moving on my to-do list, farther down.
Yeah.
I don't know how you edit in a coffee shop either, because my family, I'll be editing in my room with the door closed, and I'll hear one thing and I'm like, everybody shut up. I'm trying to edit. That's impressive.
Yeah. No, I think it's because I'm editing other people's interviews, so I don't have to listen to myself talk for an hour and a half. I'm listening to other people talk, so I'm reliving the interview. So that's also, I think, part of why I enjoy it so much.
Yeah, that's true. You get to actually appreciate the information they give you, because when you're actually recording, you're very focused on what's next.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do gratefuls. And my grateful is our RV friends and family. We went up to Hilton Head to see some of our friends who we made on the road, and they're now some of my parents' best friends. They have a son who is my brother's age and a daughter who I absolutely love her so much. She is 4. It was her 4th birthday, and they did a spa party, and they painted the girls' nails and did their hair, and I did her hair, and it was so cute. And they had bath bombs in little foot water things. It was adorable.
That's so cute.
And I babysat all the kids for a few hours so the adults could go out, and it was just so fun to, like, hang out with them, and I'm really grateful that we have them in our life.
Yeah, yeah, it's so cool the way that the internet has connected people, you know? And just,
Mhm.
like
Yeah, definitely. We meet a lot of people, or we met a lot of people on the road, and we still do sometimes, like, different RV families who are content creators, and my parents have become really close with some of them, and, like, they still talk to them even though we're not on the road, and I've made good friends on the road too, and it's just, like, really crazy how social media does that, which is what we're gonna talk about in a little bit. But
Yes, it
let's
is.
do "You're Grateful."
Yeah, I'm really grateful for the gym that I go to. I honestly like the people there are, like, wildly supportive, and it's one of the reasons I keep going back to that gym because I enjoy working out, but, like, to a certain extent, working out is also, like, not not always what you wanna be doing, but it's really the people that I feel like have kept me going, and they're just some of the coolest people in my life right now, honestly. So, I'm just grateful that I had the opportunity to meet them, through that.
That's nice. I wish my gym had more of a see, climbers at the climbing gym, they're either really friendly or they will not talk to you or look at you at all. It's always
They're
hit
in
or
the
miss.
zone.
Yeah. I took my friend climbing for the first time a couple weeks ago, and there was a guy there who was, like, yelling at himself across the
Oh.
gym, and I'm like, I am actually scared for him. He was getting so frustrated with himself, and I'm like, "Alright, I'm gonna give you some space. Back up a little bit." Okay, let's do the bulk because we have we actually do have quite a bit, even though I feel like
Mhm.
I don't usually write this long of an outline, but apparently I have a lot of
I was looking
topics
through
for
it,
us
I
to
was
go over.
impressed. I was, like, looking through all the questions, I was like, "Dang, we're really on it."
I know, I try to keep them short and sweet because I will start to ramble if I make an episode too long, so we'll see how this goes. But we're talking about the impact of social media on teens, and we're starting with mental health.
There's so much to cover there.
There's so much, and it goes so deep. And we're starting with the negative because I wanna get it out of the way so we can talk about the positive because that's what I like to talk about. Oh, there's so much. There's so much. I feel like, generally speaking, it's always negative. There's always a negative correlation between mental health and social media, and nobody talks about the positive. I swear, I went through, like, 18 articles on this when I was writing this outline, and every single study I looked at had, like, the words depression and anxiety and, like,
Yeah,
all these awful negative words in it, in, like, the
yeah.
first paragraph,
I think
and
it's
it's
because the
crazy.
usage has ran so unchecked that, like, the common outcome of the overusing of social media is that, and it's the easiest to quantify. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, we tend to focus on the negative aspects of things more than the positive.
Mhm.
I definitely think there's also, like, the body image side of it and, like, comparison.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I personally find myself comparing like, I feel like we all compare ourselves. There's, like, 2 levels. There's us comparing ourselves to people with, like, 100 million followers, like, big people who have a big following and this is their job and they're content creators and they're influencers and they have, like, hundreds of millions of followers on across all their platforms. But then we also compare ourselves to, like, our peers with 150 followers.
Mhm. Yeah. I think it's interesting, and I don't know how much you've seen of this, but there's definitely a big swing, um, or like a big split in the people who are like really like the workout kind of people who are like everyone needs to work out, and it's like this very very intense mentality, and then the opposite swing of like it's okay to be how you are. I think it's very interesting that we have those two very very polarized camps where you can
Oh,
end up
yeah.
on the side of social media that's very like body positive, and then the side of social media that's very very just very intense and very workout heavy. I've seen a lot of that. I don't know how much of that you've seen and experienced, but
Yeah, I definitely have seen a lot of that, and, like, the negative side of, like, the very intense side is also, like, so influenced by diet culture.
yeah.
Like, I always think of, I'm forgetting his name. oh, what's his name? Liver King is, like, that really intense side of it, and he's, like do you know who I'm talking about? Have you ever seen any
I
of his
don't.
stuff? My dad was, like went through a phase where he was, like, obsessed with him a couple months ago, and he's, like, this huge guy, I mean, huge, like, could break my spine in half. He lives in Texas, and he eats, like, raw meat and, like, all these very odd foods, and, like, very he wants to, like, live naturally, right? And he eats a lot of meat and, like, raw liver, and that's why he's called Liver King or whatever. And then
Mhm.
there's, like, the more, like, side of it that I'm on that's, like 'cause, like, my dad's way over there, and I'm kind of, like, over here with, like, Spencer Barbosa and, like, Caitlin Nolan and those kinds of people.
Yeah, yeah, and I think on the surface, like, a lot of the things that the very extreme side talks about aren't inherently bad. Like this idea that we should like work out and take care of our bodies, or like I guess if eating raw meat is, what makes you feel good. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. The problem is when
Right.
those ideas are pushed onto other people in a very harmful or hurtful way, or in a way that makes you feel like you should feel bad for the way you're living right now. Because honestly, you don't get better by feeling bad about the way you are right now, or at least you don't progress like healthy. I think that you should want to work out from a place of wanting to better your mental state rather than wanting to not necessarily better your physical body, but I just think that the intention is wrong. I think that that's what it would come
I
down to, is the intention is wrong.
Yes, I totally agree. I think that, like, people who work out solely for the purpose of they want to look a certain way that is meeting other people's expectations is what is harmful and what causes people to not stay consistent at the gym.
Mhm.
But when you know that you're working out for your mental health and your physical health and they're equal to each other and you like appreciate it and you enjoy it, like genuinely you know that this is good for you and is making you feel good, that's when it's a good thing.
Mhm. Yeah. It's just I feel like in past years there hasn't been as big of an emphasis on that, but recently there's been a massive sway towards these two polarities.
Oh yeah, definitely. I feel like I talk a lot about Caitlin Nolan, and she talks about, like, working out to feel good and for your mental health, and, like, she has mentioned before that, like, growing up when she was younger, because she's, like, 23, 25, somewhere in there, so she's, like, older than us, but she's still, like, in the Gen Z category.
Mhm.
Like, it was all about, like, working out to look a certain way, and now there's been this big shift where a lot of creators are focusing on working out to feel good. And then I feel like there's this other side of the body image stuff that it's, like, the Instagram model side where photos can be
Yeah.
edited and, like, we forget that sometimes.
Mhm.
Like, I am a photo editor, and I don't edit that kind of editing where you change what someone looks like, but, like, lighting and all those things are easy, so it can't be that hard for someone to download an app on their phone and change whatever they look like.
Or all that stuff with the AI. I recently saw something that was about like wild AI filters that you can put on people that make it look so it just looks real. It went from this girl who was just like no makeup, no nothing. And it was like I don't know, some sort of app for something. And I don't know how real this actually is, but I feel like the AI stuff is also just kind of wild in what it can do to people, like, and it makes it look so real. It doesn't look like it's a filter. It makes it look like, oh my gosh. And even now, some of the filters on, I don't know if they're on Instagram, but just in general, some of their filters are so realistic looking that
Yeah.
it's if you looked at the filter without having seen the before photo, you wouldn't even recognize or you wouldn't even know. And I think that that's also a big thing. Is people are like, oh my gosh, people can just look like that. It's like no, it's heavy makeup and or filtering, so I think that that's another big
Yeah.
detriment.
And I don't think there's a problem with, making certain edits to things, but when you don't make it clear that things are edited and you give people an expectation to live up to something that's unrealistic is the problem.
Mhm.
And I'm really happy to see. there are models now on Instagram who are professional, like, runway models, and they are working really hard to show this is why you shouldn't compare yourself to models. We have our makeup professionally done. Our
Mhm.
outfits are like perfectly matched to our bodies.
Yeah. I've seen stuff like that as well, where it's just so like you can't even compare because it's on a level where like people that are like professionally getting paid, like that is their job, you know, plan out these kinds of things and do the makeup and the hair and all that. So there's no level of comparison. You can't even
Yeah,
compare.
it's like not only is this person a professional model, but they're having professionals do their makeup, a professional do their hair, a professional makes their outfit, a professional takes the photo, a professional edits the photo, and it's like all the schooling and experience all these people have put together, there's no way you can put that into yourself and make yourself look like that in reality.
Mhm. Yeah. It's interesting though, because like we consciously know that, but subconsciously sometimes it's really hard to get it in our brains that like I can't
Oh, yeah,
compare. Because your
definitely.
first reaction for looking at something like that is, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. Why don't I look that? Or why can't I look like that? You know what I mean? And so it's figuring
Mhm.
out, I don't know. It's hard because at this point, I think for some of us it is so deep. We're just so insecure that at any point when we can compare, we do. So I think that's hard.
Yeah, I totally get that, and I feel like when we do compare, like, that should be the signal to, like, shut it down,
Yep.
which I do wanna talk about in a second, but we have 2 more little notes because there's, like, so many negative things, and I selected the negative things we were gonna talk about today, and there's still, like, so many more,
Mhm.
which is frustrating. But social media is not everything. Like, we as creators are not we don't owe the people who follow us in our audience to give them any personal information about ourselves, and in turn, they don't owe us follows and likes and engagement.
Mhm.
And so, like, we choose specifically what to put out.
Yeah. I think the relationship between the creator and the, I guess, receiver or watcher, I don't know what you'd call it. Like the relationship between the creator and the consumer, that's the word I'm looking for. I think is so interesting and I think it I don't know, I'm sure we could get into this, but I follow a few different people who really talk about the importance of like creators acknowledging the power that they have on apps like Instagram and YouTube and stuff. Like that is like despite everything, that is what people are consuming and we do have to be aware of that. But I think it's really interesting to dive into the relationship between the creator and the consumer.
Yeah, me too. And I feel like sometimes we forget that, for me personally, I have a content calendar. My
Mhm.
content is usually planned out at least a month in advance. My things are edited and put together, and so you're not getting not only are you not getting real time, but I selected specifically based on what my target audience wants to see, what I'm gonna push out.
Mhm.
Like, it's not my whole life. My whole life isn't on my Instagram or my YouTube or my podcast. I try to be, as realistic as possible, but, we don't share every single thing. We share the highlights of our life,
Yes. Yeah.
which I feel like goes into FOMO, and especially with people who are closer to us, like our peers. Like I was saying, we compare ourselves to them too when we feel left out of different events that are happening locally.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting take, especially on personal accounts. I've definitely experienced like witnessing other people like go to events or like be involved in things, knowing that like seeing them post about it afterwards, knowing I wasn't invited, or just being like, oh, you know, oh, you wouldn't did that with that group of people. I mean, I definitely think it can create this fear of FOMO since everything can be so public. Obviously, our whole lives aren't public because, we do pick and choose the moments that we want to share. When people's parents are going through a divorce or, whatever it is that's going on in their lives, people aren't sharing that out on social media because that's not what they want people to see. But when they're experiencing those highs, those are oftentimes what you see on Instagram. So it's hard because then we look at people and we're like, oh my gosh, their life is so perfect. And, this is a topic I think that's been covered a lot, but it's this idea that like not everything is on social media. So you really can't judge a book by its cover in terms of people living a picture perfect life because their life isn't picture perfect. No one's life is. They're just only sharing what they want you to see. And what they want you to see is the best of them, not the worst of them.
Exactly. That, like, perfectly sums up what I was thinking. And I feel like for me, it's hard being homeschooled because I see, like, my friends from public school, going to school events that I'm missing out on, and that's definitely, like, that hits me hard, but then I'm like, I had to take a step back and remember I spent a year on the road, I have a podcast, like, I do all these things that they don't do. And it's like a two-way road, I've had a lot of people tell me, like, "You're so lucky," and, "That was the dream of a lifetime," like, "I would give anything to do what you did." And, it goes both ways.
Mhm.
Just because
Yep.
you feel left out, they might feel left out of your life too.
Yeah, I think there's a reason we all experience things.
Exactly. Okay, now we get to do the positive, which is the fun part and the part that I like. Because personally, after I started curating my feed, I have had a very positive experience with social media. And if you are intentional with the content you look at and the people you follow, I believe that you can have a good experience on social media and, really enjoy it without constantly comparing. I mean, of course, I still compare, absolutely. But when it happens, I know that it's happening, and I know that's when it's time to put the phone down.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't say my experience has been all positive. I've definitely faced some challenges that are just kind of frustrating to deal with. Just spam accounts and things that I'm not super interested in, and that's annoying. But I think that there are a lot of positives on social media. I think the biggest is the community. I've met and that's why I feel like it's so hard to say that social media is all bad or like this, that, or the other, because the benefits of social media are the people. You know what I mean? It's meeting really, really cool people. Almost all the guests that I've had on my podcast that I don't know in person are people that have usually reached out to me through social media or that I've reached out to through social media. And I've met some wonderful, wonderful people. I've met you. I've met multiple other people that I'm now very, very close with. And I think that that's just like, that's the beauty of social media. It gives
Yeah,
people the ability to connect. And without it, I don't think that there is a way that we would have connected otherwise.
definitely. I mean, there's no way. And, like, I was saying earlier about, friends in the RV community, a really good friend of mine, Kelsey, love Kelsey, she's the best. We connected on social media. I saw that her family was also traveling like mine, and I reached out to her because I hadn't met other teenagers on the road yet. And this was, halfway through our trip, I still hadn't met any, and I connected with her, and we ended up, meeting, and, we've become really close because of social media and because of that connection.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's all about balance. It's understanding the cons and being able to combat them, um, in return for getting those benefits.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like if you, like I said, are intentional and you know what you're doing and you focus on the positive side of it and take a step back when you catch yourself comparing or when you feel negative, that's how you're gonna have a positive experience.
Yeah. Do you think for some people that the negatives outweigh the positives?
I do. I think that it depends on the kind of person that you are. If you're someone who is going to, attach yourself to negative things and you are only focused on negative things, you're not someone who, you know, looks at the positive side, you're going to keep focusing on that even online, and you're gonna continue to compare.
Mhm. And do you think it's beneficial for those people to probably delete social media?
I think that I don't think social media is for everybody.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
There's stuff going on right now about the age and
Mhm.
when you should, at what age you should be allowed to be on social media and, have access to make these connections and those things, and, personally, I don't have TikTok and I'm not allowed to, um, because I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons is because TikTok is it's so easy to connect with people and things like that, and it took a long time for my parents to be comfortable letting me on social media, and the legal age for most platforms is 13, but there are so many kids younger than that on these
Yeah.
platforms who lie about their birthdays from the very start, and, you know, I remember, like, a lot of my friends did that when we were in, like, late elementary school, early middle school before we were, like, 13 and allowed to have it. Their parents would just be like, "Oh, put my birthday instead." And
Yeah.
I feel like there's a reason that there is an age in their terms of use. Like, the platforms, you know, Meta and Pinterest and all these platforms understand the negatives, and they want to keep that from young kids.
Yep. Yep. I've seen a lot of accounts with younger children that are, I think, very strangely getting a lot of not that it's strange, but it's just very interesting that these accounts have like 10,000 plus followers. You know, these kids that are 10, 11, you know, like very, very young kids just posting stupid content, and there's like a ton of people following them. And I just find that very interesting. And it honestly concerns me a little bit. One, for the kid when they grow up, because it's like, I don't think anyone would like, once you grow up and are in your 20s, I don't think anyone would want to like have the stupid content they posted at 11 or 12 out on the internet, much less with a big following. Um, so I don't know. I think it's very interesting. And I think some of these kids are being raised on social media, which is also concerning.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I feel like, you know, for there are content creators out there whose parents run their stuff and their
Mhm.
kids, and they love it, and, you know, I love the accounts where, you know, it's a young kid and a parent. Like, that
Mhm.
is okay with me because there's a parent there and they are monitoring it, but when they're like my brother is 11. I would be terrified if I knew that my brother was on social media because of, like, all the negativity and, you know, I personally and, like, most of the people I know haven't had that stereotypical experience that they talk about a lot in, like, school programs and parents about, like, strangers asking to meet up online and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I've never had anything like that. But what would worry me is the content that is on there and if he was posting, what people would say in the comments about him.
Yes. Yeah, the kind of people that you attract. That's the concern with younger kids is the people that you're attracting aren't necessarily the people you want to attract.
Yeah, and, like, that's what YouTube Kids is for. Like,
Yeah. Yep.
that's what it's for. Y'all have your space. There's no comments on there, and, you know, it's supposed to be a safe place, and I feel like YouTube does a pretty good job. I think they've gotten better. I know when my best friend's brother was younger, he would watch YouTube Kids, and there were some things that we were like, I feel like that should not be on there." But now that my younger sister is on there, I definitely have seen that it's gotten much better.
Yeah, that's good to know. And I think yeah, I think some kids are just like, I don't want to be on YouTube Kids because they want to be like older than they actually are. So I think that that's just kids being young and rebellious, and that's where parents need to step in, which is a whole side. That's a whole other thing. But no, I think that
Yeah,
there's a good reason for YouTube Kids.
and I feel like once, like once you get to, like, our age where you have a better understanding of social media itself and, like, you see the negatives and the positives, like, I feel like especially for, like, Gen Z and, like, people our age, we get the spam stuff and we're like, "It's annoying," but, like, we don't care. Like, we know what
Yeah.
spam looks like and we just get rid of it, but, like, those young kids don't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something that learn with age, and then just also with maturity, I think, is just being able to like, you know, you're not as innocent as you were when you were 11 or 12. You know, you can look at something and understand, they're asking for my credit card number or this or that or the other, like information that I obviously shouldn't give them. You know what I mean? Where young kids are like, oh my gosh, I would have free like, I don't know, Wii U came to my mind, but that's not a thing anymore. But like a free Nintendo Switch or something, you know?
Yeah, and it's like they they just don't get it yet, and that's one of the reasons that, like, these platforms have these age limits, and sometimes it frustrates me when parents are totally okay with their kids lying about their age on platforms because 'cause I'm like, "There is a reason that there is an age." Like,
Mhm.
I understood why I wasn't allowed to have social media till I was, you know, 13, 14, whatever, because that's legal, like, legally binding stuff says that these platforms can't accept users that young. So, let's talk
Yeah.
about how to have a positive experience on social media. Like, what can we do to make it better? And the first thing that came to my mind was use it less.
Yeah. Yep. Basically.
Like, take a break, take a step back. I
Yeah.
have a hard time with this because I have posted once a day, every day, all of 2023, and I'm not about to like lose that. I'm like, I don't want to take a break yet because I've been doing this strong for like 5 months now. But a friend of mine who is a creator, Jaden, she was telling me that she takes Wednesdays off IG. She always takes Wednesdays off Instagram. It's like, that's a really good idea. Like, have a set day of the week where you turn it off.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, what I've been doing is I've been, and I don't post near as consistent as you do, but what I've been doing is I've been posting in the mornings and then deleting it for the rest of the day because I noticed that there are particular times when I'm more prone to get on it and just waste my time scrolling. I definitely think the solution to having a better experience with Instagram is to use it less because then it also breaks the addiction. I think the problem is that some people are just addicted. So they're at, I wouldn't say the beck and call of social media, but they're like constantly on it and constantly just like in the zone and in that world, um, which just isn't healthy. It's not healthy to let something so insignificant and something that really doesn't affect your life too terribly much, except when you're on it, have that much influence and impact on you. So I think that using it less is definitely the best way. And then it just lets you feel more in control. When you have the discipline to step back and to take control of it, then whenever you do use it, it's intentional and you feel a lot more empowered. That's how I've been feeling, is that when I'm intentionally on Instagram, I feel a lot more empowered and I feel a lot less guilty about it. You know, when you're just like randomly scrolling for like, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, however long, I think that there's definitely a sense of guilt either before or after or even during. There's this sense of I should be doing something else, but one more reel, one more this, one more that. You know what I mean? So when we can take a step back and just distance ourselves from that, I think that we become a lot happier and we become a lot more fulfilled when we do use it because we know we're using it for a purpose or we're using it um, with the intention that we're going to set a timer or that we're going to delete it. I think that the fact that I've used it in the morning has really helped me because I only have so long to use it in the morning. I wake up, I do all my stuff, I don't get on my phone right away, but I'll wake up, I'll like get ready, I'll do all my stuff, and then I post. And then, I have however long until I need to like be at school. And then like once, I'm at school, it's deleted, it's gone. And that's it. So there's a nice built-in time constraint, which has really helped me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have this really bad habit of doing the like waiting till 8 o'clock, and then like 8 o'clock will pass, and I'm like, oh, I'll wait till 8:30 to like get off.
Yeah.
Or I catch myself a lot because I'm homeschooled and I'm just on my computer when I do school. I'll have to watch a video for school, and the video will play, and I'll get bored of it, and I'll go to pick up my phone, and then I'm like, hold on, I'm supposed to be doing school right now. And so I've started leaving my phone like outside of the room and like keeping it there during school because, like, I will go and pick it up, and I've caught myself, like, going to pick it up, and I can't find it. I'm like, "Because it's in my room. That's why I can't find it. Because 'cause you're not supposed to be on it right now." And I also have definitely found myself with the notifications. When I post a reel,
Mhm.
I know that Instagram likes it. Like, I know that my content gets pushed more if I shut down Instagram for a while after I post. And I've read that, like, that's because they're trying to send you notifications to get you back on. But then I will want to go check and, like, see how it's doing and respond to comments
Mhm.
right away. I'm like, "Okay, we need to just let it do its thing. It'll be there later. Like, I can come back to it later."
Yeah.
And then, like, what are we supposed to do when we're not on it? And I think this is something that you really love, and it's, like, getting outside.
Yes. I'm a big advocate for that. Anyone who's listened to my podcast or follows my Instagram is like, Maddie probably posts too much about going outside. I swear, anytime I'm like, consistently posting, there's something in there, at least weekly, about like, hey, you should get off Instagram and go for a walk or go outside or look at the sunset just because, just because.
I do it a lot too because I'm, like, a climber and a hiker. I'm like, "Everybody, go climb, go hike, go, get out in the outdoors." And, like, not everybody's into that like I am, so I'm like,
Hmm.
"Okay, maybe you guys just need to take a walk. Like, just get out and take a walk." And then I just had an episode with my best friend Raina, and we talked about this in a recent episode, and it's scrolling while you're with your friends and your
Mm.
family. And we gave reasons or like ways to like spend time other than scrolling. So my thing is spend quality time with friends and family instead of scrolling while you're with them.
Yeah. I think the biggest detriment of phones in general is the fact that we're looking down at our phone when we're in environments where we're around other people. I think that that's like just hands down for me the most detrimental part of it, because you're losing eye contact and you're losing that level of connection. And we've never had anything like this before. Like in the past, when you were around someone, you were just around them. You didn't have a phone to be looking down at or Instagram to be checking. Like you were just with people, looking them in the eyes and having, a conversation with them. I think that setting your phones down is really helpful. Like, I used to go to a particular friend's house, and whenever we came over, he had like a basket, and he'd be like, "Put your phones in the basket. No phones at this party," because he would get so annoyed when people were on their phones. And so we'd all like set their phones, and he'd take them into another room. He was like, "If your parents need to call you, you better," he was like, "you better turn on your ringer and have a specific like ringer for your parents, so because they're gonna be in the next room, and you don't get to touch it unless it's serious." But he was just very strict about it because he hated it. It was so funny. But
I love that. I'm gonna start doing that to all my friends. I'm gonna get a basket in my room and be like, "Put it in. Put it in. We're
yep.
closing it up." Because it's a big pet peeve of mine
Hmm.
too. I'll go to a friend's house and we'll hang out for a minute, and, like, I'm sure you've experienced this too, and we'll, like, go to their room and we'll sit down and we both just get on our phones.
Yeah. Hmm.
And we just scroll next to each other for, like, hours.
Yeah. And then there's no like real connection there. I don't know. I just love people. So for me, that's what like really sucks the most, is the fact that you're just losing that connection. You're losing the eye contact. You go to dinner with someone and they're like texting their friends, and you're like, "Really? Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
I'm sitting right next to you. Like, we can have a full on conversation. You don't need to text someone else." So I
Yeah.
think just, turning them off and setting them down. Obviously, you still need to be available if parents call or whatever, especially at our age. Don't be getting in trouble, but also be
Yeah.
aware and conscious of the fact that um, I think it's just sad how normalized it's been in our society.
Definitely. I totally agree, and I also feel like most of us at least, have this bad habit of when things get awkward, we don't know what to say, we pick up our phone like we got a notification or something.
Yeah.
I do this so much.
Yeah, I noticed myself doing this the other day. I was having a conversation with someone, and someone else like walked into the room and interrupted our conversation. I was like, I don't know what to do, and so I just like picked up my phone, and I was like just scrolling back and forth between like this like the different apps like slides. I don't even know what to
Yes,
call
I
them.
do
I'm
that
just like,
so often.
yeah, just to avoid
Like,
awkward conversations.
yeah, and it makes you look like you're busy.
Hmm.
So, it's like, "Oh, they're doing something," like, it's not like you're just sitting there waiting.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
do this all the time, or, like, when I'm sitting I caught myself my mom set a pickup order at Starbucks the other day, and I needed to go in and get it, but it wasn't done yet. And so I was, like, waiting, and I waited for, like, 10 minutes, and, like, the first 2 minutes, I was literally doing that on my phone because I didn't wanna look up at anyone else in the room,
yeah.
and then I was like, "Okay, hold on. There is, like, 10 people in here. Everybody's either talking to the person next to them or they're on their phone." And, like, it's okay to just stand there and, like, observe, and I feel like we
Hmm.
forget that sometimes. I was in another Starbucks situation, like, the same thing, but we were in Boston, and there was, like, at least 100 people who came through while I was waiting. The pickup order table was full of orders. Like, I mean, so many people came through, and everybody was sitting on their phones waiting for their stuff. Like,
Wow.
everyone, and I'm, like, shocked because, like, every single person, no matter how old they were, like, it was from, like, grown working men to me, like, 15, and we're all sitting there on our phones. Wow.
Yeah, it's so wild how it's changed our society. Because in the past, like, I mean, obviously you and I aren't old enough to remember it, but like, You know, people that are older will mention like the fact that you'd walk into a coffee shop and talk with the barista. You know what I mean? There was just a different level of human connection that's so foreign to us now because when things get awkward, we just pull out that phone to avoid the human connection. And I think in the long run, that's honestly going to be really detrimental to us. And just to, I don't know. I just think that there is, even if it's just a really basic conversation about how the weather's going, I think that there is something important about connecting with other people. I think there's a lot of value in that. And I think it's sad that we're lacking that a lot in our society.
Yeah, and I feel like it's made it's made it to the point where people who are considered, like, if you're a people person, right, and you're very extroverted,
Hmm.
even then, like, especially at our age, like, I am considered very extroverted, but I will still avoid conversations with my phone. Like, without even, like, thinking about it, I'll just be like, "Oh, no, I'm
Yeah.
not doing this," and I'll pick it up. But let's talk about curating your feed because this is, like, my favorite thing ever, and I know I've talked about this before, but it's something that's really important to me. Oh, wait, do you do this, though? Do you, like, curate your feed, like, often?
Yeah. I go through who I'm following all the time. Like, you know, what hashtags I'm following, like what's in my feed, like is it supposed to be in my or not is it supposed to be in my feed, but is it giving me any value? And this one guy I follow, CM, I honestly don't know his Instagram handle, CM Duplin, I think. That's awful. I'm butchering his name horribly, but it's his last name. It's his first initial, his middle initial, and then his last name. But he's great, but he talks a lot about making sure that you're following content like creators that are actually giving you value. So I've made sure that like is what's popping up in my feed useless nonsense or is it like actually like adding value to my life? You know what I mean? I think that there's a big
Right.
difference between the two of them.
Yeah. I always start with, like, understanding what you want to see in your feed. And I like that we have this option now to do, like, the favorites on Instagram because,
Mhm.
like, those my favorites are usually the people who are, like, most important to me that I see their content because, like, they put out the best stuff and, like, I feel my best when I see their content.
Yeah. Yeah, I
But
would
I feel
agree.
like we should all have, like, a similar goal of, like, we wanna see uplifting and motivating content.
Mhm. I think the problem is for a lot of people, and I see this with my personal account, is that you like don't want to unfollow people because you just feel awkward about it. You're like, I don't want to unfollow this person. That's just weird, you know. Um, and I went through a phase where I was like, I don't really want to unfollow people, and then I went through on my personal account and unfollowed just a bunch of people that I'm not in contact anymore with. You know, I was like, I just don't have any need to see updates in their life. You know what I mean? Like for whatever reason, and it's nothing against them. We're just no longer in contact, and I don't feel the need to constantly be seeing on my feed what they're doing with their life. You know, and that was just a personal decision for me. It was not that they had done anything wrong, but I think that that's also important as well is realizing that you know if people are unfollowing you, like don't take it to heart, you know, and it's okay to
Yeah,
unfollow other people. I think that you know, making sure that you're seeing things that aren't making sure that you're not seeing things that are taking you down. Like if you constantly are seeing a particular friend post things about going out with people and this, that, and the other, and you're feeling a lot of and you're feeling very self-conscious about it, like you just don't have high self-esteem and it's really bringing you down, don't be afraid to unfollow the friend. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
I know that's like kind of a shocking concept a little bit because you're like, I don't want to hurt their feelings, but like it's not the end all be all. You know what I mean?
right. And I definitely think people take it a little bit too seriously. I'm the opposite.
Mhm.
I am like an unfollow maniac. I will unfollow everyone and anyone. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. If you post something that I don't like or you don't post at all, like, I don't follow like any of my grandparents. I love them, but I don't follow any of them on Instagram because they don't post. So there's like no point. And I have a very hard following limit.
Mhm.
On my personal account, I only follow 200 people. Because I know there's no way that I can keep up with 800 people's lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, there's
I
no reason for me to follow that many people.
no, I think it's wild when you see people who have, like, follow 1,000 people. Like, it's like, how in the world do you keep up with that many people? I just think it's no, I would agree with you. I think having a set limit is good. I think it also shows that you'll be more connected with the people you do follow. There's no point in following someone if you don't actually engage in their content. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I think that's the other thing is that we're kind of getting away from this idea that like followers matter. I think engagement matters far more. I'm annoyed because I recently went and like removed a bunch of followers from my podcast account because they were just inactive accounts, or they were accounts that had nothing to do with mine, and I didn't know why they were following me. I was just like, remove, remove, remove. And they didn't interact with my content. I was like, there's no reason for you to be following me, and you're dragging me down. What I want is engagement. I want my engagement to match with my followers. If all of my followers engaged and listened to my podcast, I'd be in a much different place. But the reality is that the majority of the people that follow you aren't going to engage, which I think really sucks. And it shows that people will just
Yeah.
click that follow button just to click that follow button. I think if you follow, I think I only follow 50 people on my podcast account, and I follow around 100 on my personal. But the people I do follow, I interact with. You know what I mean? They're the
Mhm.
people that I want to engage in their content, and I make it a point to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I feel like for the people who do have, like, thousands on their following list, like, you really just have to take the time, commit, and, like, go through who you're following.
Hmm.
And, like, ask yourself, like, why are you following them? Like, what's the point? Like, I remember when I first got Instagram, I was very follow happy. I followed, like, anyone and anyone who's I'd heard their name before, and then I was like, "Hold on, like, why am I following these people?" And one of the things that I noticed was, like, celebrities that I really loved. Like, I am a big Harry Potter fan. At least I was. I'm not, like, as into it as I was when I was younger, but, like, I love Harry Potter, and I followed, like, a ton of people in the cast, and then I'm like, "I really don't care what you're doing right now." So I unfollowed, like, almost everyone except for Emma Watson because I love her. Or, like, Marvel. My brother and I are huge Marvel fans. I mean, we watched Spider-Man this morning, and I was following, like, everyone, and then I'm like, "I don't really care what everyone is doing right now, like, I don't need to be following them." Or, like you said, like, friends, people that you know, like, in real life, and you're, like, expected to follow them, but if they don't post or they make you feel crappy, like, there's no point.
Hmm.
And another thing is, like you said, making them feel bad. I realized that when someone unfollows you, it doesn't send you a notification. They won't know that
Yeah.
you're the one who unfollowed them.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, the only way that they would know is if they went through their following and searched your name because they thought it was you.
Yeah. I don't know. And people say that there's a way to see it on like in like the Instagram settings, but I think that's BS because I don't think that's
Yeah,
actually factual because I've never figured it out. And there's a bunch of people who was like, if you do this, this, and this, I'm like, no, I think that's just BS. And I think people
yeah,
they care, but they don't care that much. You know what I mean?
right. And if they do, that means that they're, like, extremely insecure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that
And, like, do they motivate you or are they teaching you something? Like, creator-wise, like, the creators you
Mhm.
follow, like, I even say it to, like, the people who follow me, like, "Do I really motivate you and teach you things? 'Cause if not, like, you don't need to be following me." Like,
Yeah.
honestly, like, it's not necessary, and I don't wanna be in someone's feed if I make them feel crappy. Like, I don't want that for them.
Yeah, I that's something I've been working a lot on is just making sure my content actually has value because I think sometimes we just get stuck in posting, whatever, just to post, just to have followers. But it's not if you're not actually delivering any value to your followers, and there's nothing that you're adding to their lives, like what's the point of one, you having an account and posting, and two, them following you? There is no point. If you're gonna like if you want to build a following, I think the best way to do that is to provide genuine value because the people who provide genuine value are the people who have the most followers. Um, I recently followed James Clear, who wrote the book Atomic Habits, and he has like a
Mhm.
million followers. He doesn't post that frequently, but when he does post, that stuff will like blow your mind. Like it's amazing and it's so incredibly valuable. And I'm gonna sit there and like take the time to read through his entire like essay long post because I know that like whatever story he's telling, whatever it is gonna hold, it's gonna be valuable and it's gonna like
Yeah,
genuinely improve my life or introduce me to a concept I haven't heard before. So I think you should aspire to have content like that. And I don't know if I said this, but he has like a million followers. Like he's got a lot of
right,
followers because he provides good content. He
right.
provides value to people's lives. That's why people like him.
I can almost guarantee you that at least a fourth of those followers are Keller Williams agents. The Atomic Habits book, my mom is a Keller Williams, realtor, and that book is so big in her office and every
Mhm.
Keller Williams office, like, everybody's read that book in the office, I swear, and so
It's
it's,
a
like,
good book
funny to
though.
think about. It I still need to read it, it's, like, on my list, I have to steal a copy from my mom, but, like, he doesn't post often, but it's worth it when he does post. And
Mhm.
I feel like that's another thing you have to ask yourself, like, if they don't post often enough to where it gives you anything, then, like, are you just following them because it's a courtesy?
Yeah. Yeah. Don't follow people out of pity, you know?
Mm-mm.
I think that I did a lot of that when I first started podcasting, is I would just follow other podcasters because they followed me. I was like,
I
"Oh, well,
did
you
that
followed
too.
me." I was like, it's maybe not the best approach to have."
Yeah, and I mean, it's good to follow each other when, you know, you wanna connect and collaborate and,
Yes.
like, especially, like, us, we're, like, a very specific, like, teenagers with podcasts. I almost always follow them, but, like, every
Yeah.
20 something with a podcast, I'm not gonna follow them just because they follow me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I said, like, they won't know if you unfollow them.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to unfollow people, guys. That's the
Yeah,
lesson for
that's the
today.
number one thing. Just unfollow them because they won't know. And then I feel like, this is the biggest thing, like, how does their content make you feel?
Mhm.
Like, if they make you feel negative, like, you have no reason to follow them,
Yeah.
like, at all.
Period.
Like, there's really nothing more to it. Like, if they make you feel crappy or negative about yourself, like, why are you following them in the first place? And then I think this is the last thing, but know when it's time to take a break.
Mm.
Like, you
That can be
have to be able to
hard.
recognize that. Yeah, and it's like a skill that you have to learn. I definitely struggled with this when I was at the beach, like, I wanted to work, like, the whole
Mhm.
time I wanted to record stuff, and I did record a lot of content, and I took, like, my stepmom and I always say "smom," but it was me, my dad, her, my brother, and my sister up in Hilton Head, and we went out one morning to do photos and content and Instagram content, and we took, like, 600 photos.
Wow.
It was, like, 661 photos or something like that, and that was just, like, that morning, and I wanted to go through them all, but I'm like, "No, like, I need to enjoy vacation, I can do it when I get home." But I feel like the number one way to know when it's time to take a break is when you catch yourself comparing.
Yeah. Yeah. Or zoning out. I feel
Yeah,
like in terms of like if you're on the app, you know, when you start zoning out or it's like you're not truly conscious when you're not actually like consuming the content. You know what I mean? When you're not engaged in it, when you're just scrolling. Cause I've noticed that. I noticed that at a certain point, like past the 30-minute mark, I'll just zone out. And all I'm doing is like
yep,
it's just that muscle memory of just scrolling to the next or looking. You're not even really consuming it because you're so tapped out. Um, and I think that's when it gets like that's just when it's not beneficial. Like you're not going to remember anything from that.
right.
You're like to go into like the sciencey stuff. I think you've gone into beta or theta or whatever it is. But like there all the whack science about it is like no, it's kind of insane, and I don't fully
Yeah,
understand it, but it's not beneficial, when you're that tapped
right.
out that all you're doing is scrolling and you're not really engaging in the content.
Yeah, I get the, like, scroll and double click to like it, like,
Mhm.
scroll, double click, and you're not even, like, really paying attention to, like,
Yeah.
what's in the photo. Which is why the last thing is to pick a day, week, month, whatever it is for no socials, however much you can
Mhm.
handle. Like, pick and set up a time and really commit. Like, delete the app. Like, I know very few
Yeah.
people who are capable of that. So just try it, and, like, you'll feel so much better afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I would say especially for people who aren't managing a business, like who aren't actively like posting, who are just using it for like fun, like for the purpose of just having it just for fun. I
Right?
would say then it's even more important to delete it because there needs to be that separation of, your life and social media. I think sometimes it's hard to break,
Definitely.
and I think actually I would say that's also equally important for influencers because sometimes, our identity gets a little too wrapped up in social media and the fact that we feel like we have to be posting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was talking the other day about how, like, it's really hard doing a job and, like, doing something where everything you're doing almost always relies on what other people think of you and whether they like you enough
Yeah.
to follow you or engage with your content. Like, that is so difficult, and, like, I really appreciate the people who do, like, follow me and engage with my stuff because I know that they like, it takes like, a lot to comment and, like, do these things, you know, and, like, leave a really good comment, so I really appreciate when people do that for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, when it comes to stuff like that, you just got to keep posting because eventually it will land with,
Right.
with someone. Sometimes you just got to keep posting and you just got to keep going because it's not going to land with everyone and it may not land with anyone at first. But at some point, fingers crossed, it lands with someone.
Right, yeah, as long as you're, like, very passionate and you know what you're doing and you put in the time and
Mhm.
energy, you'll get where you wanna go.
Yes.
Well, thank you for coming, this is fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I I love this, it's definitely still new for me, but I love, like, having guests on, and I hope that, like, everybody enjoys it and, like, likes hearing another perspective other than me.
Yeah.
Like,
I
I
think
feel
it's
like
fun to just have someone to bounce ideas off of.
yeah, definitely. And I'm excited we're gonna do a collaboration reel on Instagram, so everyone needs to look out for that. And you all need to go listen to Maddie's podcast because it's awesome. And if you haven't listened to episode on her podcast with me in it, go listen because I talked about RV life. I think the episode that I talked about RV life on here was like one of my best episodes, and I
Mhm.
talked about it even more on your podcast than my own.
Yeah.
So like people definitely need to go listen to that and listen to all of her stuff and follow her Instagram and everything is in the episode notes. And yeah, thanks for
Yeah.
joining me.
Of course. And the episode we did together is called Romanticized Life, RV living, mental health, etc. and stuff. But yeah, it's only 2 or 3 episodes down because it came out fairly recently, even though we recorded it a little while back. But
I'm still so impressed by that. I was like, she's so far ahead. Like I had no idea when
I
I would
have
be
so
coming up
many
because I'm
episodes,
like,
it's kind of wild.
I don't know how she does it because I will edit like the Sunday night before. I swear. A couple weeks ago, I did it so close that I had it uploaded on like I always post on Mondays. I had it uploaded 1 minute before it turned to Tuesday. Like that's how close it was. And I'm like, I don't know how you do it, but I'm impressed.
Yeah. I upload between Monday and Wednesday. It honestly depends on my editing schedule.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I've been meaning to get more consistent with that. But
Well, thank you again. And like I said, all of her stuff is down below. So go click in it, go give her some love, follow her on all the things. And yeah, thanks for joining me.
yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to give this podcast a rate and review, as well as follow me on all my socials linked in the show notes. Don't forget to drink some water, and I'll talk to you later.